welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a bit of a unique journey, I think, into the world of materia medica.
Right. For anyone maybe new to that term, it's basically a detailed reference guide in homeopathy. It maps out what different substances do or seem to do.
Exactly. And our specific source today is a classic, William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica. And we're zeroing in on one substance.
Clematis erecta.
Clematis erecta, yeah. Also known as Virgin's Bower. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission really is to pull out the key info, the most important nuggets about this plant, and kind of guide you through its pretty intriguing profile.
And I think this dive will really highlight something quite fascinating. How just one, seemingly ordinary plant can show this really complex, very specific pattern of effects when looked at through this particular medical system. It's all about spotting those unique signatures.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, let's start broad then. The who and what of Clematis erecta. Boericke links it to certain patient types, right?
He does. He uses terms like scrofulous,
which suggests things like swollen glands, maybe chronic infections, especially in kids.
That's the general idea, yeah. And rheumatic, so joint and muscle issues.
And then these older terms, gonorrheal and syphilitic, which points towards, venereal diseases and their aftermath. That's quite a spectrum.
It really is. But what's key is where Boericke says its main action lies.
Okay, where's that?
He points straight to the skin, the glands, and very specifically, the genitourinary organs, especially the testicles.
Okay, so even if it could fit different people, its core action is really focused there.
Seems to be, yes.
Yeah.
He also flags it for sleep problems and neuralgic pains, nerve pains popping up in different places.
Gotcha. And there are some striking general symptoms listed too, aren't there? Like great sleepiness.
Profound sleepiness, yeah, and significant emaciation, like wasting away.
And this weird distant pulsation feeling through the whole body.
And muscles either too relaxed or twitchy.
It's like Boericke is painting a very specific picture of someone.
He really is. You can almost visualize the person. And he adds this really interesting detail.
What's that?
That many of the pains are actually better from sweating, from perspiration.
Huh. Okay.
Which isn't just random. It tells you something about how the body's trying to regulate or find relief. It connects to the whole picture.
Right. Okay, so we've got the big picture. Now let's zoom in. Head to toe. What about the head and eyes? Boericke mentions a confused feeling.
Yeah, but interestingly, better in open air.
Okay, that's specific. And a boring pain in the temples.
Like drilling, almost.
And the eyes. Sounds like they get quite affected.
Definitely. Heat in eyes, sensitive to air, so much so they must close them.
Wow. And also very sensitive to cold.
Right. Plus, flickering before the eyes, chronic eyelid inflammation, that's the blepharitis involving the meibomian glands.
Little oil glands in the eyelids, right?
Exactly. And even pustular conjunctivitis, like an infection with pus, sometimes alongside a scalp condition like tinea capitis, leading to inflamed, maybe even protruding eyes.
That sensitivity to air and cold just keeps popping up.
It does. And it's probably not just a coincidence. It might hint at a deeper sensitivity, For a practitioner, seeing that pattern worse from cold air, sensitive eyes, it could really point towards clematis, even if the main issue seems different.
It's like a connecting thread. Okay, moving down. Face, teeth, stomach, anything stand out?
Well, for the face, white blisters, as if burned by sun.
Ouch. And swollen glands under the jaw, submaxillary glands.
Yes, with hard tubercles throbbing, and worse when touched.
And there's that very specific right-sided face pain. Goes to the eye, ear, temple.
And it's better holding cold water in mouth.
That is incredibly precise.
It really is. Such fine details. And, that improvement from cold water fits a pattern we often see with clematis. Generally worse from warmth, better from cold. Small detail, big clue.
Makes sense. What about teeth?
Toothache, worse at night and from tobacco.
Okay. And that feeling that the teeth feel too long?
Yeah, like they're being pushed out slightly.
And the stomach, just one quick note there.
A quick but significant one. After eating, weakness in all limbs and pulsation in arteries. Like a system-wide reaction.
But really, the main event, the place where clematis seems to have its most unique signature, is the genitourinary system. Boericke really emphasizes this.
Absolutely, this is central.
So for males, what are we looking at?
Okay, he lists ilioscrotal neuralgia. That's nerve pain, basically, in the groin and scrotum.
Right.
Then testicles indurated, meaning hardened, with bruised feeling, so sore and hard.
And swelling too, or chitis.
Yes, swelling of the scrotum, inflammation of the testicle itself.
Yep.
And specifically noted, right half only,
The right side again.
consistently. He also mentions troubles from suppressed gonorrhea.
Like, the infection was maybe treated superficially, but deeper issues remain.
That's often the implication in these older texts, yes. And violent erections with stitches in the urethra.
And the testicles themselves, they can be in contracting states.
Exactly. Either hanging heavy or retracted, pulled up, both with pain along the spermatic cord.
And again,
Worse, right side.
that right-sidedness is just so prominent.
It's hugely significant in homeopathy.
Yeah.
These specific lateralities are critical clues. And putting that together with the idea of suppressed gonorrhea, it's not just random symptoms. It suggests a specific kind of chronic picture Clematis might fit.
Okay, let's shift to the urinary symptoms then. What does Boericke describe there?
A few key things. Tingling in urethra lasting some time after urinating. Frequent scanty urination. So going often, but not much comes out.
And burning at the orifice.
Yes, and a really characteristic interrupted flow, like the stream stops and starts.
Almost like it's struggling.
Yeah.
And the feeling that the urethra feels constricted.
Yes, narrowed. Urine coming out drop by drop sometimes.
And that feeling of not emptying completely, dribbling after urinating.
Right. And again, pain often worse at night, pain along that spermatic cord, and potentially commencing stricture, the start of a narrowing in the urethra.
Wow, that's a very detailed picture of urinary difficulty.
It really is. It's not just irritation, it's very specific sensations, flow patterns, obstructions. A clear fingerprint for this remedy.
Okay, let's round this out with the skin and glands, the external signs. What kind of skin issues are typical?
Boericke describes them as red, burning, vesicular, meaning little blisters,
Okay.
scaly, scabby, and with terrible itching.
Itching that's worse from.
Washing in cold water, which is interesting given the general bitter from cold theme elsewhere.
Yeah, that is a bit different. Where does this tend to show up?
Often face and hands and scalp around the occiput, the back of the head.
Got it. And the glands, we mentioned them earlier.
Yes, we circle back. Glands described as hot, painful, swollen, and specifically worse inguinal glands, the ones in the groin.
Right.
He also mentions glandular indurations, so hardened glands, even possible tumors of the breast, and varicose ulcers, those slow healing sores, often on the legs.
It really ties back to that initial description, doesn't it? The skin, the glands.
Exactly. It connects back to the scrofulous and glandular tendencies mentioned right at the start. It shows a systemic impact, reinforcing that whole picture.
So, to really grasp this, we need to understand the modalities, what makes things better or worse. Why are these so important?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. Think of them as the remedies or the patient's specific triggers and soothers. It's not just what hurts, but when it hurts more, or what brings relief.
Okay. So, for Clematis,
Boericke is pretty clear. Generally better in open air,
right.
and worse at night and warmth of bed. That nighttime aggravation is strong.
And what's from washing in cold water for the itching? We noted that.
Yes, and there's even this peculiar one, aggravation around the new moon, a monthly pattern.
Huh.
These aren't just minor details, they are vital clues about the person's sensitivities, their reactions. They help pinpoint the remedy, key diagnostic markers.
Really specific conditions. Now, Boericke also lists some comparisons, right? Other remedies.
He does. He mentions Clematis fidalba, another Clematis species, specifically for varicose ulcers, which helps differentiate.
And others like Silesia, Staphysagria, Petroleum.
Right. Placing it within the broader materia medica helps practitioners compare and contrast to find the best fit among similar remedies. It's about precision.
And he also lists antidotes, Bryonia and Camphora.
Yes. That tells practitioners how they might potentially moderate the effects if needed, maybe if the reaction is too strong or if it was the wrong remedy choice. It's part of responsible practice.
So let's pull this together. What does this all mean for you listening? You've basically just walked through how one single plant, Clematis erecta, is understood in this system.
Characterized by really specific interconnected symptoms.
Yeah, mainly hitting the skin, the glands, the genitourinary system, and all guided by these very distinct modalities, the betters and worses.
It's a pretty striking example of detailed observation leading to a precise remedy picture.
It really is.
And maybe it leaves us with a thought, something to consider. When you come across information about any substance, could be a drug, a herb, a nutrient, whatever, how much attention do you usually pay to the conditions? You know, the circumstances under which its effects are stronger or weaker or better or worse.
Modalities, essentially.
Exactly, because often those details, those conditions well, they hold the real key to understanding its unique profile beyond just a simple list of effects. It adds a whole other layer.
That's a really great thought to mull over. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Clematis erecta. Keep that curiosity sparked.
See you next time.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're taking just one entry from a really classic homeopathic text and picking it apart to see exactly what it says. And our subject for today? It's a plant called Clematis erecta. Okay, so let's get right into it. We're looking at this one plant, which is also known as Virgin's Bower. But here's the key. We're only looking at it through the very specific lens of one historical source. That source is William Boericke's homeopathic Materia Medica, which came out all the way back in 1901. Now, our goal here isn't to evaluate the practice itself. We're simply here to explore what this really influential old text actually recorded about this one single substance. So, Boericke starts things off with this one single, really powerful sentence. And you know what? It's basically a roadmap for his entire entry. Right from the get-go, it tells us the three main areas this remedy is said to affect. You've got the skin, the glands, and the genitourinary organs. So we're going to explore each one of those themes, and everything we talk about is coming straight from his text. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at what the text calls the patient profile. Then we're going to zoom right in on those three key areas of action we just mentioned. After that, we'll do a quick head-to-toe tour of some other symptoms, check out what makes things better or worse, and then finally, we'll see how this remedy fits in with others mentioned in the book. Okay, first up, the patient profile. So what exactly does that mean? Well, in historical texts like this one, remedies are often described as creating a picture. It's like a collection of symptoms and characteristics that when you put them all together are supposed to form this really distinct profile for one specific substance. So, according to Boericke, who exactly fits this Clematis picture? Well, the source points to folks with some pretty specific underlying issues. And remember, this is 1901, so he uses terms of his time. For example, he mentions scrofulous people, which back then referred to a type of tuberculosis that affected the lymph nodes. He also talks about rheumatic conditions and even issues coming from diseases like gonorrhea or syphilis. Now, physically, the text describes a person whose muscles are kind of relaxed or even twitching, someone who's lost a lot of weight and is just overwhelmingly sleepy. And this is one of those really strange specific details, there's this feeling of a distant pulsation that you can feel all through your body. All right, now we're getting to the real heart of it. Remember those three main areas of action Boericke mentioned right at the beginning? This is where his text gets super specific. So, we're going to break them down one by one. We'll start with the skin, move on to the glands, and then finish up with the genitourinary system. First up, the skin. So the text describes these eruptions that are red, burning, and vesicular. That just means they're like little blisters. And these can then get all scaly and scabby, but the real standout symptom here, terrible itching. And notice how specific this gets. The itching is supposedly worse on the face, hands, and scalp, and it gets even worse when you wash with cold water. That's a key detail. Okay, number 2, the glands. The description here is pretty straightforward. Glands that get hot, painful, and swollen. Boericke specifically points the inguinal glands, down in the groin. He also talks about glandular indurations, which is just a fancy term for abnormal hardenings in the glands. He even mentions things like tumors in the breast and swollen submaxillary glands. Those are the ones right under your jaw that develop these hard little bumps. And that brings us to our third key area, the genitourinary system. And the text has a really strong focus on male symptoms here. It's incredibly precise. It talks about testicles that feel bruised or have hardened, swelling of the scrotum, specifically on the right side. And when it comes to urinary problems, it describes an interrupted flow, a feeling that the urethra is constricted, and even the urine passing just drop by painful drop. All right, so we've covered the big three, but beyond those main areas, the text gives us this whole head-to-toe scan of other little characteristic symptoms that really help fill out the picture. So let's do a quick tour of those right now. Starting at the top, with the head. Boericke writes about a boring pain in the temples. And he doesn't mean boring like uninteresting, he means boring as in a drilling or piercing feeling. That's paired with just a general sense of confusion. But here we see our first relieving factor. These feelings apparently get better when you're out in the open air. Moving to the eyes, the text describes a feeling of heat and this really distinct sensitivity to both air and cold. It's so bad, it says, that the person just has to keep their eyes shut. It also mentions chronic inflammation of the eyelid. Okay, how about the face? The description is of white blisters, almost like you got a sunburn. But check this out. For facial pain, it notes this very unusual way to get relief. It says pain on the right side of the face gets better if you hold cold water in your mouth. You just don't see details like that every day. And the teeth. The text points to toothaches that flare up at night and are made worse by tobacco smoke. But the most peculiar detail, the one that really stands out, and this is the kind of thing you see all the time in these old texts, is the sensation that your teeth feel too long. Can you even imagine that feeling? So all of this, what makes things better, what makes things worse, it brings us to this really key concept in historical homeopathic writing. It's called modalities. And that's really just a term for all the circumstances, times, and conditions that are supposed to make a person's symptoms either better or worse. So for this clematis picture we've been building this whole time, what does Boericke actually list? What are the big triggers, and what's supposed to bring relief? Let's take a look. And here it is, laid out plain and simple. On the better side, it's just one thing, being in the open air. But man, look at the worse side. That list is way longer. Symptoms get worse at night from the warmth of your own bed. And remember this one? From washing in cold water. And then there's this last one, which is just fascinating. The new moon. The source is literally claiming that symptoms get worse every month, tied directly to the lunar cycle. Okay, and finally, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. See, these old texts almost never talk about a substance all by itself. They're constantly creating this huge web of connections, comparing and contrasting different remedies. The idea was to help people figure out which one to use. So this table here kind of sums up those connections. Under compare, you can see Boericke lists other substances that have a similar symptom profile. Then under antidotes, he lists what was believed to counteract its effects. And finally, you've got the dose. This part mentions the range of potencies used, which, in homeopathy, refers to this whole specific process of dilution and preparation. And the range here goes from the 3rd all the way up to the 30th. So we just walked through this one single, incredibly detailed entry from a book written back in 1901. And we're not really left with answers, are we? What we are left with is this fascinating snapshot of a very specific medical framework from a different time. And it kind of leaves us with a bigger question, I think. What can a primary source like this one, with all its peculiar details and its really distinct worldview, what can it teach us about the long and, let's be honest, very strange and varied history of how human beings have tried to understand health and illness over the years?
Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your sources and really dig into them for the most fascinating insights. Today, we're looking at something quite specific, actually. It's from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica. We're focusing on just one entry, the plant Clematis erecta, which you might know as Virgin's Bower.
Right. And for anyone maybe not familiar, Materia Medica in homeopathy, it's basically this huge compilation. Like an encyclopedia, it lists substances, plants, minerals, you name it. And
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a bit of a unique journey, I think, into the world of. Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your sources and really dig into them for the most fascinating insights. Today, we're looking at something quite specific, actually. It's from William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica. We're focusing on just one entry, the plant Clematis erecta, which you might know as Virgin's Bower.
right. And for anyone maybe not familiar, Materia Medica in homeopathy, it's basically this huge compilation. Like an encyclopedia, it lists substances, plants, minerals, you name it, and describes the incredibly detailed symptom pictures they're thought to match. A lot of this came from proving healthy people taking the substance and just meticulously noting down everything they felt.
Exactly. So our mission today is to sort of navigate this one account, this Clematis erecta entry, and pull out what makes it so noteworthy in its detail.
Yeah, the level of specificity is really something else.
So what does this tell us about, how people observed things historically in medicine? We're basically going to walk through the list of symptoms linked to Clematis erecta, pretty much head to toe. It's a glimpse into a different way of looking at the body. Maybe not like modern science, but wow, the dedication to detail. It's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about that close observation.
Okay, so let's jump in. Where do we start? The source immediately flags Clematis erecta for patients described with some pretty old terms: scrofulous, rheumatic, gonorrheal, and syphilitic.
Right. And scrofulous, just for context, that was often linked to a type of tuberculosis affecting lymph nodes, especially in the neck. So quite serious conditions. And the text says the plant acts particularly on the skin, glands, and the genitourinary system, especially the testicles, it notes.
A very specific focus there.
But
Yeah.
it's broader too. Beyond those conditions, it highlights things like disturbances of sleep, which is quite general, and neuralgic pains, nerve pains that, and this is interesting, are often relieved by perspiration.
Relieved by sweating. Okay.
Yeah. And other general things too, like muscles relaxed or twitching, great emaciation, so severe weight loss, great sleepiness, even a feeling of distant pulsation in the whole body. It suggests, a really systemic kind of impact.
Okay, so moving systematically, like the source does, let's start at the head. It describes a boring pain in temples, not just a headache, a boring pain.
That specific quality of pain is key in these descriptions.
And a confused feeling, but specifically better in open air.
See, there's a modality already. Fresh air helps.
Right. And there's also this eruption on the occiput, so the back of the head at the base of the hair, described as moist, pustular, sensitive, and itching. Very vivid.
It really is. And again, the location, the type of eruption, moist, pustular, it's all part of building that remedy picture. Precision was everything.
Okay, from the head down to the eyes, what does it say there?
It notes heat in eyes and a real sensitiveness to air. So sensitive they have to keep their eyes closed.
Wow, just air itself is irritating.
Seems so. And also great sensitiveness to cold in general, relating to the eyes.
And does it mention specific conditions?
It does. Things like chronic blepharitis. That's long-term eyelid inflammation, specifically mentioning sore and swollen meibomian glands, the little oil glands in the lids. Also iritis, inflammation of the iris, and something called pustular conjunctivitis with tinea capitis.
Okay, so conjunctivitis, but linked with tinea capitis.
Yeah.
That's a scalp fungus, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you see a connection being drawn between an eye issue and a scalp issue. And the eyes are described as inflamed and protruding. Again, quite a strong picture.
Definitely paints a picture. Now, the face, this section had some really striking details.
It mentions white blisters on face and nose as if burned by sun.
Like a sunburn, but blisters.
Oh, okay. And then this swelling of submaxillary glands, those are under the jaw, with hard tubercles, throbbing, aggravated on being touched.
Hard little lumps, throbbing, painful to touch. Very specific.
Extremely. And then there's a pain described on the right side of face going up to eye, ear, and temple. But here's the interesting modality. It's better holding cold water in mouth.
And are from cold water in the mouth, even though the skin felt burned.
Exactly. That's one of those apparent contradictions that's so fascinating in these old texts. It's that kind of fine-grained observation, cold, helps the internal pain, maybe not the external sensation, that was considered really important for matching the remedy.
Huh. Okay. What about teeth and stomach? Briefly mentioned.
Yeah, for teeth, just an ache that's worse at night and from tobacco.
Yeah.
And this odd sensation that teeth feel too long.
Feel too long. Interesting sensory detail.
And the stomach, simply that after eating, there's weakness in all limbs and pulsation in arteries. A kind of post-meal fatigue or vascular reaction.
All right. Now, it seems like there was a lot of detail on the male genitourinary system.
There really was. Very specific. It notes ilioscrotal neuralgia. That's nerve pain running from the hip groin area down to the scrotum. And importantly, testicles indurated with bruised feeling. So hardened, but feeling bruised.
Indurated.
Hardened.
Identifying scrotum.
Identifying orchitis, which is inflammation of the testicle itself. And here's that specificity again. Right half only.
Just the right side. That's peculiar. Why such a focus on one side? Was that common?
It's a feature you see sometimes in homeopathic remedy pictures, this lateralization. Whether it reflects a real physiological tendency of the substance's effect, or just how the symptoms happen to manifest in the provings, well, that's part of the puzzle. But the text just records it, right half only.
Okay. And continues.
So yes. It mentions troubles from suppressed gonorrhea, the idea being that symptoms pop up later if the original infection wasn't fully resolved in their view. Also, violent erections with stitches in urethra, and testicles described as either hang heavy or retract with pain along the spermatic cord. And guess what? Worse, right side.
Still the right side. Wow. The level of anatomical detail is pretty striking considering the time.
It really is. It suggests very careful observation and reporting by those involved in the provings or clinical use.
And this detailed focus continues with the urinary symptoms, right?
Absolutely. Things like tingling in urethra lasting some time after urinating. Not just during, but after. Frequent, scanty urination, burning at orifice, and this very distinct description, interrupted flow, like the stream starts and stops.
Okay, that's a very functional detail.
Yes, and it describes the urethra feels constricted, urine emitted drop by drop, and even inability to pass all the urine dribbling after urinating. It's painting a picture of difficulty, obstruction.
Almost like symptoms of, well, maybe an enlarged prostate or a stricture.
Exactly. And it actually notes commencing stricture, a narrowing of the urethra. It also mentions pain again, worse at night, pain along the spermatic cord.
Yes.
It's a really complete picture of urinary difficulty and associated pain.
Okay, rounding out the physical symptoms, the skin, what was described there?
The skin gets quite a description too. Red, burning, vesicular, meaning blistered, scaly, scabby. So quite inflamed and possibly eruptive.
And the itching.
Ah, yes, the itching. It says it itches terribly. But here's the kicker. Worse, washing in cold water.
Wait, worse from cold water? Didn't we just hear cold water helped the face pain?
We did. That's the paradox again. For the skin itch, cold water makes it worse. It really underscores how specific these effects were believed to be, varying even within the same remedy depending on the symptom and location.
So where does it itch most?
It specifies worse face and hands and scalp around occiput, back of the head again.
Interesting connections there. Face, hands, back of head.
And it ties back into the glands theme too, noting glands hot, painful, swollen, especially the inguinal glands in the groin. It also mentions glandular indurations, hardened glands, and even tumors of breast, plus varicose ulcers. So a wide range of skin and glandular issues.
Okay, so we've gone through the body. Now, these modalities, the things that make symptoms better or worse, seem really crucial. Can we summarize those?
Yeah, they're like the defining conditions for the symptoms. We already heard some, but systematically, it's generally better in open air. Remember the head pain.
Right, better outside.
And generally worse at night and warmth of bed. Heat seems to aggravate things generally.
Okay, night and warmth make it worse.
Then there's that specific one. Worse, washing in cold water, which applied to the skin condition.
The itching paradox.
Exactly. And perhaps the most unusual one, worse, new moon. It suggests a monthly aggravation.
Words around the new moon. That's taking observation to another level.
It shows how widely they cast the net, looking for any pattern, even, well, lunar cycles. It speaks volumes about their methodology trying to correlate everything.
Definitely. And did the source mention relationships to other remedies or antidotes?
It did. It lists several remedies considered similar in some ways. For comparison, things like Clematis halba for ulcers, Silesia, Zephysagria, petroleum, oleander, sarsaparilla, cantharis, phosphoricum acidum, and pulsatilla. A whole list for practitioners to consider.
So other potential matches, depending on the nuances.
Precisely. And it names bryonia and camphor as antidotes, substances believed to counteract the effects if needed. It also gives a dosage range, 3rd to 30th potency.
Ah, potency. Can you quickly explain what that means in this context?
Sure. Potency in homeopathy refers to how the remedy is prepared, involving serial dilution and succussion vigorous shaking at each step. So the 30th potency, 30C or 30X, depending on the scale, means the original substance has been diluted many, many times. It's a core concept, the idea that this process somehow imprints the substance's energy or pattern, even with extreme dilution.
Got it. So extreme dilution plus that shaking process.
That's the gist of it, yes.
Okay. Well, we've certainly taken a deep dive into Clematis erecta through Boericke's lens. It's really quite remarkable, that level of detail from, the specific quality of a pain, like boring, to the side of the body affected, like the right testicle or the exact urinary flow. It's quite something.
It really is. This dive doesn't just give us a list of symptoms, it shows a whole system of incredibly detailed observation, how they noted environmental factors, time of day, temperature effects, even the moon. The sheer precision in these old texts is, it's quite thought-provoking, isn't it?
It absolutely is. So thinking about this, what really stands out to you, our listener, about this method? This way, traditional medicine observed and cataloged plant effects. Think about those incredibly specific details like indurated testicles with bruised feeling or that terrible itching worse from cold water. Why record that level of detail? Why was that specificity considered so vital? It really makes you ponder the historical journey that led to such intricate, detailed knowledge systems, doesn't it?